women who got proposed to but rejected it. Why and how? Did your life change afterwards? I was dating a guy for 2 or 3 weeks. Yes, weeks. And he proposed to me with a ring he had bought for another woman, which he told me as he was proposing. I said no and kind of slowly ghosted him because yikes. My friend did something like this, but he had such a tragic backstory that it made a very sad sort of sense. He was engaged to his high school sweetheart, and just as we were all in our mid-20s, a week before the wedding, his future bride, who everyone loved because she was a really good person with a big heart, was killed in a car accident. Less than a month later he was dating. A lot of our friend group were more than a little upset with what he was doing, but I had known him longer and better than anyone. Not my mom, when I was a teenager, and I sort of knew what was going on. He came from an extremely emotionally abusive home. Like if you ever saw Harry Potter, that Lady Del's Umbridge everyone hates. Yeah. His mom looked and acted a lot like her. Like she was the biggest bitch I've ever known. I've never heard of a parent, especially a mother, treating her own kid that fucked up. So his girlfriend was sort of the only person in his life, outside of my family, who showed him any sort of positive affection. And she was ripped from him in the most tragic way possible. And he was going 1,000 miles an hour to replace that loss, up to and including proposing to a girl he met online after only dating a very short time. It went about the same as it did with you. On the upside, once my friend came to grips with his loss, he took a big step back from what he was doing and tried his best to work things out. That is really sad, and I'm glad he realized what was going on. The guy I was with was trying to compete with his older brother, who was getting married. It would have been any girl he dated at the time. Had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with sibling rivalry. Did not want to be a part of that. Probably not exactly the situation you're asking about, but a humorous story. I was proposed to in a pretty nonchalant manner by a fellow student at my local community college. I had just turned 21, and he was in his mid-40s. The CL but was scuba diving. He has some really good reasons for me to marry him. He was completely deaf, so his proposal was witnessed by an interpreter and most of the class. He spoke well, but was a little hard to understand at times, so he signed and spoke the whole thing, while the interpreter stood by to make sure I understood what he was saying, and had to repeat a couple things that I didn't catch. The CL but was pretty laid back, so we were almostly comfortable with each other. Hanging out chatting after CL but own day, and he gets my attention and says, "It's very matter of fact we should get married. Ed, here's why," and proceeds to list several reasons why. Some of his reasons were, I could drive his Jeep anytime I wanted. It was a brand new Rubicon, and I had an older Grand Cherokee, so obviously I love Jeeps. I could play music as loud as I wanted any time of day. Wouldn't bother him. We would never fight, because he couldn't hear me anyway. He had a job, collected disability pay, and had his own home, so I would never have to work. I always looked so interested in what he had to say. That one was him picking on me because he knew I didn't know sign language. He said it would be perfect. I agreed with him that it did sound pretty great, except for the fact that he was the same age as my dad, and that was weird. I kindly declined his proposal, and he joked about me crushing his spirits and how I was the only girl for him. He pretty much dropped it, but he would ask me occasionally throughout the rest of the CL but changed your mind yet? Then we'd have a good laugh. He was the nicest guy, I think just a little lonely. Always kind-hearted and loved helping everyone out. He loved that he was on an even playing field while scuba diving. No one can hear underwater. He was fun to be around. Too bad he was twice my age. Jerry, if you're out there and remember this interaction, I dated a few guys that were shit compared to how you treat a lady, and I thought about your proposal often. I'm incredibly happy with the boy that I hope to marry someday, and I genuinely hope you found someone that makes you happy and treats you well. Edit. Thank you guys for the awards! Exclamation mark. I hadn't thought about Jerry's offer for a while, and it was nice to remember. I'm glad people enjoyed the story! Exclamation mark. 92 years old man at a nursing home used to ask me and every other woman to marry him daily. Had this whole sweet old man line, "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." I would reply, "I just heard you say the same thing to that nurse, but you're prettier." made me smile every time. He had forgotten he was already married. Dementia? Oh yes. However, according to his son, this behavior was quite typical before that though. Why? Because he was a drunken stranger, and I was a 17-year-old grocery store cashier. Of course. It didn't change my life at all. But it's a memory that makes me smile. Eater, he was charming/funny drunk. Not creepy angry drunk, which is very important to my remembering this fondly. That's nice of him, I guess. If you lived in the 1600s and were running a shop stand and a drunken stranger proposed to you then, do you think anything would change? No. Apostrophe. I'll give you a couple goats. Shit negro. That's all you had to say. Apostrophe. Okay. My first boyfriend. Started dating in high school. My end of 9th grade year. He was a senior. So he went off to college. Lived 2 hours away. Cool. Everything was cool. My junior year. He moves back to our hometown. Didn't talked about. I asked him about college. He just said he didn't want to go anymore. Then I realized this guy can't commit to a job. Like in high school I understood the slack. I ended things with him that summer. Before I went for my senior year. Years pass. I moved to a different city 3 hours away from a hometown. We get in contact again. Because I was getting over a bad breakup. After a 2ish years we start dating again. I think he finally has good things going for him. Like his future. Well, after dating for like 3 months he moved in with me. I didn't want this. Yet his mother was being kicked out of the house they were renting. Due to non-payment. About 6 months into him living with me. He's jobless. Demanding I pay his car payments. Won't clean up the king or nothing. And just plays games all day. He asked me to marry him. I said yeah cause people were watching. But I promise you. And soon as we get back to my apartment. I give him $40. Tell him to go back to his mom's so she could take care of him for the rest of her life. Exclamation mark. Best decision ever. You are really sweet to say yes to his proposal. To save him major embarrassment in public. I've seen many awkward public proposal rejections online and always wonder why the rejectors didn't take your approach. I know it's easy for me to judge, having never been put on the spot like that, but I'm almost certain I would have the same situational awareness and empathy that you did. I think empathy is a great trait, but I also think that if someone is going to pile on pressure by making a public proposal to someone who has never indicated that he wants to get married, it's absolutely fair for the person receiving the proposal to say no. If it was me, I would feel manipulated. And I suspect some people do it for that reason, because it's hard for people to say no if the person proposing personally engineers things so that the proposal recipient would have to say no in front of a bunch of people. If you're the one who set up the embarrassing situation, I don't think anyone owes it to you to save you from it. A long-term boyfriend asked me to marry him. Had a cinematic vision of my future supporting him as he ping-ponged from job to job, making sure the bills were paid on time and the car registered, and basically doing any task that required being a functioning adult. Listening to his incessant whining about how this or that person didn't fully appreciate his genius. A moment of pure clarity in which I realized that I was wasting time being with someone, waiting for him to grow up. Noped on the proposal and the relationship. Couldn't be happier with that decision. I was dating the man that I eventually ended up married to. Another guy, a friend whom I had never dated, asked me to come live with him, marry him, start a life with him. It was so awkward. I just said sorry bro, I'm taken. Apostrophe. He stopped talking to me after that. Sucks to lose a friend. But who does that? That's kinda creepy as well. It was a less creepy and more pathetic I think. In my book, I knew him pretty well, so it didn't come across as creepy to me. We were 18, only together for about 2 months. We were sitting there and they said, how would you feel if I got you a ring? And I thought it best to be honest, so I said, I think it's a little too soon for that, but maybe next year, that could be nice. Well, big mistake. They pulled out a damn ring. Oh, I already got it. I guess I'll just keep it to myself then, if you don't want it. The next few weeks were a huge string of, if you don't love me and want my ring, I'm going to drive my car off a bridge. Guy who asked was cheating on me at the time. I knew about it, but couldn't leave for a month when the lease was up. He had a violent temper, had already threatened to kill me, and I didn't want to endanger my life, so planned on just taking off. I saw the ring on his desk and thought it was for the other girlfriend. Then he moved the ring to the dining room table. Didn't know what to make of that. A few days later, he snottily told me that most people would respond when they've been proposed to. I laughed and told him, 1. Most people bother asking. 2. Getting married doesn't generally fix existing problems in a relationship. And 3. I hope most people aren't also lying cheats. I left quickly and visited a friend of mine on the naval base. Evidently my ex stormed out and went to other chick's house. She called and got his stuff that week. I moved a few weeks later and never heard from him again. How did my life change? Less stressed. I learned that people aren't always what they appear when you are dating. Living together before marriage allowed me to learn someone's real self without a bunch of legal encumbrances. You sound very wise. My daughter brought this guy sailing with my buddies and I. She used us as advisors. He was buy a ham sandwich. You know, not a steak dinner, but better than going hungry. They dated for maybe 3 weeks, and he buys a ring and purposed. Got down on one knee in front of her friends. She told him no later in private. The next day he calls me and demands me to order her to marry him. Not a typical proposal, but I had a coworker who I never dated or even knew of any attraction to me ask me to marry him. He said he was up for a job where he'd be making over 100k in less than 5 years. This was back in the late 90s, so it was good money for our age back then. He said he'd buy me a house and the car I was in love with at the time, BMW Z3, plus I wouldn't have to work. I said no thanks, and then luckily got another job shortly afterwards that set me on my current career path, which I wouldn't change for anything. Sorry, I'm already in love with a BMW Z3 feet. After I broke up, I found out he was arrested for illegally selling guns and drugs. I dodged a bullet. Possibly several. Underrated comment. Not me, but my wife of 9+ years was proposed to by a guy she never even dated. This happened a few months before I proposed to her. He was a friend of her brother's, and he offered her money, as well off, in exchange for either marrying her or at least having his child. Obviously she declined and settled for me. Haha. Close bracket. She's quite happy with her decision. Even though we're not rich like him. Has still friends with her brother and is just an absolute mess of a person. Well, if you're not gonna marry me, at least bear my child. That's fucking creepy. Creepy doesn't even begin to explain it. And on the rare occasion we saw him after we married, he would flaunt his cash in front of us. For example, he showed up at my in-laws house, remember has still friends with my brother-in-law, and proceeded to tell me how the watch he was wearing cost more than our wedding. We also caught him trying to follow us home one time. We have not told him where we live and ended up driving in circles until he got the hint. We were together 2 years when he asked. I think we could have been happy and great in a lot of ways, but fundamentally, I never would have been happy. He was a very nice guy, but had a very overbearing mother that he let run his life. He had no idea who he was or what he wanted. He just let his mother choose his life for him. From his career to his underwear. At first, I didn't see it because he resented how involved she was in his life. It slowly dawned on me that, while he may resent it, he absolutely could not make any kind of decision on his own. From whether he wanted to attend church or what kind of higher degree he wanted. He left it to his mother when he quit a great job at a prestigious law firm that he liked to work for his parents as a gopher for 20k a year. It basically ended the relationship right then. I think he proposed as a last-ditch effort to keep me because he knew deep down I was on my way out. I was sad about it until I spoke with a good friend of mine who has a sister that married a mama's boy. She recounted to me how absolutely difficult her marriage was, currently going through a divorce. It was then I realized I dodged a massive bullet. Couldn't be happier now. Last I heard, has still a gopher with a law degree and his parents promoted his sister over him. Him now with a guy that is his own person and makes his own decisions. Very grateful. This happened to my mother. To any woman out there who might find themselves in this situation, get out. It's not worth it, and he will always choose his mother first. In my mother's case, my grandmother ended up slowly controlling every aspect of my parents' marriage. She would even call my mother if she found out that my father bought her a gift to scream at her about how she wasn't allowed to make him waste money. My father never bought anything for my mother. Barely anything at Christmas or her birthday. Never went anywhere with her when she wanted. Whereas he pressured her to go to boring events that didn't interest her at all, calling her selfish. He is completely devoted to his mother. On the contrary, constantly buying her thoughtful gifts and having deep conversations with her. He never stood up for my mother, and since she didn't have a job, she was a housewife. She didn't leave him, but wasn't financially stable enough to make her own decisions. Even if it was just buying something nice for the house. She always loved the beach and spent there every summer as a child. But since my father doesn't like it, they never went. He would even dismiss their friends when they invited them to a seaside town saying I don't like the beach. Never mind, my mother did. So she spent the last 20 years stuck in our arid, empty hometown. He wouldn't even defend my mother when his own family insulted her because I like my maternal family more than them. No wonder why. My mother died last year of cancer, and he went so far as to deny her access to palliative care behind my back, making her suffer an agonizing and painful death, emotionally and physically, while shielding my grandmother from everything for her own well-being and spending even more time with her. I'm kind of ranting, and I don't even know how much sense I'm making. But please, run away from these guys fast. I don't want anyone to endure what my mother did. She died without having even lived because he was tied to my father. I'm so sorry you and your mom went through all that, and even more, so that you've lost her now, and in such a terrible way. I hope you're able to heal and have a good life yourself. The owner of the company I was working for as my first big girl job out of college proposed to me after 3 weeks of employment. He's 30 years older than me, and his children are only 5 years younger than me. I freaked out and completely ghosted him. He went through the 5 stages of grief over text and has now firmly situated himself in anger. I have my own business now. 2020 sucked romantically, but professionally I grew TF up. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.